The book I decided to review was Walt Whitman, Words from America by Barbara Curley and illustrated by Brian Selznick. Barbara Curley attended college in Chicago. After college, she joined the Peace Corps and she went to Nepal. In Nepal, she taught math, science, and English. She also got the opportunity to hike Mount Everest. However, her and a group of friends only made it 14,000 feet because of the blistering cold. They could not take it any longer. After her trip in Nepal, she returned to the United States, where she got a job as a cinnamon roll queen at a huge bakery. She basically prepared all the cinnamon rolls. She laid out the dough and cut the individual pieces to bake. As a young child, she traveled a lot around the world, and one memory she has is of her going to Costa Rica. She really enjoyed Costa Rica. She liked the plants and all the foliage, and she just really appreciates nature. I decided to review this story because of my interest in Walt Whitman. I always thought he was one of the best poets in that American history ever had. I really like his insight on deep issues such as politics and nature, and especially the Civil War. Barbara Curley also shares the same interest as I do in Walt Whitman's recollections of the Civil War. The story talks about Walt Whitman and his life briefly, but it focuses more on how he dealt with the Civil War. He worked as a nurse in the North, and he cared for all the injured. He was known to have a deep passion for it, and he always took care of anybody. He never let any soldier down. After tending to all the soldiers and the people hurt by the Civil War, Walt felt it a responsibility to use the stories that every soldier and every injured person told him as a way to write poems and use their voice so all America could know have a deeper insight about the war and the toll it had on these people. Whitman is then discharged for being a nurse because of his health. So he learns about the news that occurred after the Civil War, all the deaths that occurred, and then the assassination of President Abraham Lincoln, whom he had grown to love. Whitman then turned to poetry to heal all his thoughts and his pain felt throughout the war. I knew quite a bit about Walt Whitman, but after reading this story or a biography, I learned that he was actually a nurse in the Civil War. I actually thought he fought in it. I wasn't too sure about it, but after reading the story, I figured out that he was actually a nurse. In 1855, he wrote one of his famous poems. These poems are called Leaves of Grass. They're a collection of 12 poems. Now, in this time period, this style of poetry is very bold and different. The ideas and the nature of the writing is just so unusual and innovative for the time. I knew quite a bit about Walt Whitman's inspirations for his poetry, but one thing I did not know was his Civil War inspiration. His poem titled Drum Tap was such a good poem after I read it. The back of this biography by Barbara Curley includes direct quotes and direct poem stanzas from his famous works. At the age of 14, Walt Whitman was left to fend for himself in the big city. So what I thought was that Walt Whitman always lived with his parents. I guess not living with his parents made him the person he is and the way he thinks. In this book, there's also no questioning the accuracy of anything. All the answers are in the back of the book. There are notes by the author and the illustrator, Brian Selznick, as to what they were drawing or what they were writing about. They had everything accurately cited and referenced. The back of the book, like I said before, also contains excerpts from poems and direct poems written in the back, so the reader could see just what the biography was all about, and to prove the accuracy of it. As you read the story or the biography, you don't question really what's been written, because the illustrations and the way that Curley writes just seems like a conversation. It leaves you wanting to ask questions. It leaves you with that sort of mysterious sense of what Walt Whitman was all about, what he was thinking, what his inspirations were, and all that good stuff. I really like the style of the story as well. The style is words juxtaposed with illustrations. The illustrations by Brian Selznick are always phenomenal. He always knows how to draw for a certain audience, and for this piece, he draws biographical illustrations very well. I especially liked the Civil War illustrations he drew. These illustrations made you feel the pain and the events that occurred in the Civil War. This biography was also organized in chronological order, so it takes you from Walt Whitman's age of 12, which was a crucial age for him, all the way until his mid-40s when he wrote Words for America. So after reading this biography, I really got a sense of who Walt Whitman truly was. Before that, I had sort of a half-baked concept on him. I knew he was into nature, I knew he was a transcendentalist, and I knew he was really kind of like a hermit for some of his life. I understand now that all these transcendentalist thoughts and this sort of hermit personality he developed was due to the pain that he endured during the Civil War. He really felt bad for these people, and he really cared for them. And this biography really led me to research more on that, and I found it very interesting. The biography was also really easy to follow. I liked the style of the pages. They were so old-fashioned, and I really liked that aspect of the story. The text itself was actually really bold and was really big, and I like the way that Barbara Curley writes very simple, yet for a child, yet it's very interesting and appealing to an older adult as well. To me, this biography is for any age, but specifically I would lean towards 5th through 8th grade, around there. But like I said before, I think this biography is great for any age. It could be great for a young child starting to read about biographies. It'll really get them interested in reading more biographies later on. I would definitely recommend this biography or story to anyone who is interested in poetry or in Civil War. Walt Whitman's life revolved a lot around the Civil War and nature. These two combinations can easily attract a wide audience, and I think his poetry is very deep and insightful. Young children would absolutely love this biography, and I think it can intrigue anybody that likes biographies as well. I really enjoyed this biography, and thank you for watching this video.